And hello, Ken Course here to talk about remarketing tonight, which is one of the more interesting social media topics that's going on right now. And really, I wanted to give an introduction because when I've spoken at various events recently, it's basically one of the most popular topics that I get. What is remarketing? How does it work? So tonight I'm going to do a combination of things. First and foremost, I'm going to teach you about what is remarketing. How does it work? What should it look like? How does it fit into your overall marketing strategy? So we're going to start in that place. From there, we're going to determine what you need to have to start remarketing and how you would leverage it in your overall marketing strategy. We're going to determine which remarketing strategy is right for your business and where you should be looking. And then how do you set goals and expectations and really understand how a remarketing campaign works? So for those of you who aren't leveraging any type of online advertising in your business, the goal by the end of this is to give you an idea of what works now. And so I'd like to give a shout out before I start because obviously we all learn somewhere. So for me, a huge influencer on this content, Ryan Dice, digital marketer, for those who haven't seen it. And everything that I learn from mentors and people. So a lot of what I'm passing on is information I learned from them. I'll talk more about that as the call goes on, but thanks to all of you that have joined us out there. If you're joining on the YouTube link, you'll just see the stream right there. Feel free to shoot me comments on Facebook. I have that window open and I'll see those come in as we're talking. Or if you've joined on Google Hangouts, for some of you out there, you'll have the ability from there to actually chat, and I have a chat box open over there at this point. So thank you to all of you who bared with a few moments of technical difficulty. What was interesting is a new version of software came out today, so was trying to get that mastered and practiced before we got started. So always exciting how that works out. So let's talk about remarketing. And first of all, to establish a context for remarketing or retargeting, what it really is in this process, first let's talk about traditional online advertising, or really traditional advertising as you would see it in any given medium. So first and foremost, the first thing you got to think about when you think about advertising is obviously you have a market. So who is it that you're trying to reach? Your ideal customer, your target market, your avatar, your persona, any one of those words that you would like to use. Heard a lot of great words for it. First and foremost, before you even start any marketing campaign, you want to be thinking about who are you looking to find with that marketing campaign. Because not even the best marketing strategists, the best marketing campaign, the best tactics, the best systems, whatever it is that you use, won't overcome not knowing who you're trying to find first. And one of the great things that Ryan Dice and many other marketers have said in different words that I love so much is they really say, first and foremost, you want to be thinking about before and after states. In an infomercial, you would see that in a really dramatic fashion. So you'd be saying, all right, your infomercial model, you'd be seeing someone who is 60 pounds heavier in the before picture and then has lost 60 pounds by the end of the after picture. So before and after state, for every business that exists on planet Earth, we're solving problems and we're meeting needs. So what we're doing is we're saying, what is the before state? Another great mentor of mine, Martha, always says, you want to say you're the person with the aspirin and you're walking around looking for the people that have a headache. So first of all, we've got to say, who is it that we're trying to find? Now, fortunately for us, both Google and Facebook in your online technology space are really a couple of different ways that you can figure out and get really targeted about who it is that you're trying to find right now. So for those of you who are thinking about it, Facebook is essentially the largest database of customer information in the world. So with that huge database of customer information, you have huge flexibility on who it is you can find. So it doesn't matter if you're looking for someone local, if you're looking for people around the world, regardless of your product or service, chances are you can start to find information on those people via Facebook, via Google, via different variety of different strategies that you have there. So first of all, let's think about who do we want to find. And now let's go back to the traditional model. Doesn't matter whether it's offline advertising, online advertising, whatever one that you're thinking of. You think of your market, and then you drum up an advertising piece. So I don't have a good one on my desk. Sometimes I do, but I like to hold them up. So let's just use a postcard as an example. You say, all right, I have my audience that's walking around out there with their headache. I have the aspirin or the thing that solves their headache. Now I've got to ask myself, what is the language? What is the copy? What is the content? What is the imagery that are going to reach that core market or that core audience going forward? So first of all, you got to think about that, saying who is my target market and now how am I going to reach them? So here's where the traditional model would go. You'd send out a postcard or a piece of advertising. It would land in someone's mailbox or on their doorstep. They'd pick it up, and on that would be a call to action. Now, in traditional online marketing, that call to action might drive someone to your website. And your website might look very similar to the website that you use to register for this webinar. And I'm just going to show that here. So here was the landing page that you saw when we registered for the webinar here. It's got our here's how to start, all the stuff we're going to do, and then some information that I asked for. And I'm going to zoom in on that real quick when we show it here. So it asks for some information. First name, last name, email address. Do you have something you'd want covered? Now, the reason I did that for this webinar, and what was interesting is because everybody that's here tonight is someone that I've met in person before. You either saw me at a Live Out Loud event, you saw me at the big table, you saw me at one of the Roseville Chamber events. Thanks so much to Roseville Chamber for promoting this, by the way. You saw me out at a networking event and you said, all right, I want to learn more about what you discuss or what you teach and train. So that's why I have that here. Now, in the traditional model, this is what it looked like. And then me as the user looking at this page could look at this page that I have here. You could watch this video, and here's my smiling mug there on the front page. You could look at those different things and say, you know what, I want this thing or I don't. I'm going to give you my contact information or I'm not. Those are the choices that I had as a user. Now, here's where it gets really challenging in the online space. What would happen online if I said, nope, you know what? I don't want to hear this remarketing webinar. Not all that interested in what you have to say, Ken. I'm going to move on to the next thing, or I'm going to find something else that's going to teach me marketing. Either one of those options that you have there, you might do that and say, all right, I'm not going to opt in. I'm going to say no. And that's, of course, what happened for this webinar. I sent it out to, 60, 70 people out there. And of them, there's only a few of you that joined live. I know statistically what ends up happening is that normally double or even triple will follow this up on the replay, because you'll want to download a replay. You'll want to watch it wherever you watch it, when you want to watch it. That's all fine. But in reality, a percentage of those people are going to be the ones that opt in or, decide they're going to do something different. So that's fine. And in the past, what would happen is when those people said no, I would lose them forever. So in the case of my postcard marketing campaign that I was just talking about a moment ago, where I paid to have postcards produced, where I paid to have those things sent out to my users, where I invested my marketing dollars, traditionally, you would send that out to a huge market. So if you're here in Roseville, California with me, where I'm at right now, you would send that out to all of Roseville. You would get the small percentage of those people back into your system that actually took advantage of your system. So in my example, they came to my landing page here and they registered for what I have. So you'd have the small percentage right there who did what they did. And the other 90% or 95% or 99% that came to the page and said, this isn't what I want, were lost to me forever. They'd be gone. I would never see them again. And maybe, 3 months down the line, 4 months down the line, I would see them somewhere else, or I would see them on a different webinar, a different event, or any of those types of things. And so in that case, what would happen is I would continue marketing to them. And normally at great expense to myself, especially in the traditional marketing space. Because if I was doing radio or television or print ads or newspapers or any of those things, I would just have to keep canvassing. I'd have to keep putting ads out. I'd have to keep spending the big budget so that I could continually get that 1 to 5% of people, and normally in marketing we would refer to that as the 1% rule. So I would get the 1% of my audience that was there at the perfect time, that this was the perfect solution to their headache, that this was the thing that they wanted right now. So I'd get my 1%. And every time I would run a campaign, I'd have to spend those campaign dollars again. So remarketing is an excellent way that we can make a second, third, fourth, 10th impression on people who may not have been ready for what we had right now, but who may be interested, casually interested or directly interested, and they just weren't ready to opt in right now. Let's say on this page they decided that because and again, I did something non-traditional here on this page. Because I asked for so many fields here on this page, I asked for first name, I asked for last name, I asked for email address, I asked if they had questions. So that's 4 fields that I had on that page right there. And so with 4 fields, I realized that a lot of you weren't going to register for this. You said, you know what? No, I don't want to give you all that information. I don't know you well enough. I've never heard of you before. What is this Explore Momentum stuff that you've got going on? Pardon me. So I didn't want to give you all that information. Now, I knew this was a specific thing. I was sending this out to specific people, and although some of you out there might be new right now, this might be a totally new thing for you, and you decided, you know what, I don't want to give you all that information right now. So enter remarketing. So what happens when you visit this page, and what I'm going to demonstrate a bit about tonight, is when you visit this page, I have a little magic piece of code that's given to me by Facebook, given to me by Google, that I have on this website that allows me to track you even before you've opted into my system, you've given me any information. It means that when you come to this page, you are essentially being followed when you go back to Facebook or you go back to YouTube or you go back to Google. So that is what remarketing allows us to do. It is a marketing method that without having people opt in, without having people give us any information, without having people buy anything, that we now have the ability to send them customized messages or to create segmented groups of people based on whatever they visited on our website and whatever we created on our website. So in this example, and I'm going to show that page again, and I'm going to simplify this as much as possible. So again, if you have questions throughout this webinar, either email them to me, ken@encoursemultimedia.com. I'll post that on the screen before the end. Or send me a Facebook message if you're watching through there, Ken Course, so facebook.com/Ken Course. Actually, let's post that on the screen right now. So facebook.com/Ken Course for those of you out there who want to ask a question. Some of the stuff I'm going to cover tonight gets a little bit more technical, and I want to make sure that you fully understand how it works. So here's what I know about this page as we created it going forward. This page is about a specific thing when I show it here. And here it is in big giant letters at the top, Intro to Remarketing. That's what we're covering here. So remarketing is the topic that I'm covering on this page. It's a specific advertising strategy, and I know that when you come to this page, you are interested in the topic of either Facebook marketing, Google marketing, or remarketing or retargeting in general. So that means if I wanted to make a second, third, or multiple impressions on you, then I would know what your interest is. You came to my remarketing page. Now, for some of you, depending on what your products or services are, and I'll get a little more in-depth about that, for some of you, you'll be segmenting your audiences before they ever opt in or join whatever it is that you are creating for them. So in this case, I know that remarketing is your interest level, and you came to a specific page. In fact, I'll put the page for those of you who want to look at what it was. It's actually exploremomentum.com/tactics. So this was the page you visited when you came to register for this webinar. And as I mentioned, I did this specifically to demonstrate this example. So, there were probably 60, 70 of you that received an email, probably 30 or 40 of you that came to watch this webinar, and maybe more. I'll look at my numbers tomorrow and we'll see what happened. But that was the page you visited when you registered for this webinar. And I knew that this page was about a specific interest. It was about remarketing. So now, here's what happens. When you come to that page, Facebook and Google give us that handy piece of code that now allows me, when you go back to Facebook, or you go back to Google, or you visit a YouTube video, doing whatever it is you do, whichever one of your systems, doesn't matter which one it is, whichever of those ones that you do, I can now place advertisements strategically just to the people that visited this page. So if there were 50 or 60 or 100 or a few hundred of you that visited this page, now when you go to Facebook, you go to Google, you go to YouTube, you're going to see my advertisement, and what's even better, that advertisement copy or the content of that advertisement or even the imagery of that advertisement can speak specifically to what was on this page. So I'm going to use that example here. So here on this page, Intro to Remarketing and Explore Momentum event, here's my mug talking about it. And then I said what we were going to do, understand the basics of remarketing, why you got to start it now, which is right for your business, set goals and expectations for your remarketing campaign. So any of that copy or content that's on this page, I now have the ability to leverage when I'm creating specific advertisements to people that viewed this page. So it's the perfect way to get out of that wide canvassing model where we're sending out random, not random, but very wide, open-ended advertisements that we send out, very wide stuff, and it allows us to get narrower and narrower based on what we know that people actually wanted from us. So I want that point to land. And we'll start wide, and when people visit the pages on our website, or they visit the content on our website, we now have the ability to send them specific advertising via Facebook, Google, YouTube that's specific to the pages that they visited on the website. So in this case, if I were to build a campaign, it would be specifically about remarketing. It would be specifically about the objectives or the things that I said I was going to deliver right here on the web page. So I want you to follow that because this allows us to get much more tactical, and a few things happen when we use remarketing or we use retargeting. First of all, we now start to create what Facebook calls custom audiences, and Google has their terminology for it. Similar idea, but the idea is the same. I'm going to create audiences based on their specific behavior. I don't have to have any specific information about them other than the content that they visited on my website. The good thing about my content as well, if we want to get really technical about it, is that I can use this both for outside marketing, so I can use it for people that are brand new to my website, brand new to my system, brand new to what it is that I'm doing, and I can also create audiences who are potential buyers of mine, who visited a series of different pages. So I could, for example, run an advertisement based on those of you who saw this remarketing page, that the Intro to Remarketing registration page, and who didn't see the webinar fulfillment page, which is handily located at the remarketing, exploremomentum.com/remarketing, which is where you went for it. So I would be able to run very specific marketing campaigns based on those things. So behavior and what we're training on in this point allows us to get really specific about user behavior and create custom messages based on exactly what they do without contact info. So that's remarketing. I want to make sure that's thoroughly covered. That's what remarketing is, and that's what it's about. So now let's talk specifically about the most technical piece of what you need to engage in remarketing, and I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of it here. Unfortunately for myself, I realized that I already have a Facebook account that has this stuff enabled for my businesses and for some of my stuff. There's not a ton of activity in there since it's relatively new, but I don't have something that can show it from the very beginning. So I'm going to have to describe a piece of how this actually happens. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to Facebook here. And so let me set up a shot real quick. So here's my Facebook timeline that you see on my screen. And I'm going to use Facebook as our primary example. You can do this through Google, and you can do this through other services as well. But here, really quickly, let me create a quick effect that puts me on the screen here. So PIP, we'll do our screen capture. There we go. And we'll do, here's my smiling mug right here on the screen for you. So I'm going to put me down here. So there we are. So here's what you're going to see. You're on the Facebook screen right now. And so as we're looking at the Facebook, which I'll zoom in on, this is the standard user timeline that you see right here on the screen. So here's my timeline. Here's Laurel right here on the screen. Hi, Laurel. Happy birthday, by the way. For those of you watching live, it's Laurel Langmeyer's birthday today. So happy birthday to her, and lots of people posting pictures of her. Now, where we would traditionally go for Facebook marketing is up here on the little pointer on the screen, which I'm going to show right up here. You'll see this little drop down, and I've got this kind of big so you can see it. And down here on the menu, you're going to see this create ads, or you're going to see this manage ads that we have right here. So I'm going to click on where it says manage ads. Some of you will see some things that say ad manager on the screen at this point. Doesn't matter, same difference. So when we come to our manage ads screen, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. And actually it's taking us in here. You're going to see some traditional things that are happening here on the website. And for some of them, there's some little things that we've done. Nothing too serious in this particular account. But you'll notice some options here on the left-hand side. So over here, and I zoomed in on that so you can see it on the screen, you're going to see campaigns, you're going to see your pages. So this is another key reason for those of you that do not have a Facebook page at this point, or you're using your Facebook profile, you got to get a Facebook page. And yes, there are some downsides to it. I'll talk about that on a future tactics webinar, but I want to make sure that you understand that this is a strategy you use with your Facebook pages. So you have to have your Facebook page set up to make this work. You've got reports, which is obvious, tells you about your reports. You got audience insights, and I'm going to skip through some of that. And down here you have this fun little thing that says audiences. So when you go to this for the first time, what you're going to see is it's going to walk you through a little wizard that says, would you like your Facebook remarketing pixel at this point? And I know this is, again, showing some of my stuff here on the screen, but what it's going to do is it'll walk you through a little wizard that says, create your Facebook remarketing pixel. And it's going to give you a piece of JavaScript code that you'll want to place on your website. So if you are using a WordPress website, for example, or any type of common content management system, whether it's WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, custom setup, typically there are areas of your website that are constant throughout the entire website. So in my case, the header and the footer are the things that are constant all across my website. So in this case, the header in my site would be my navigation, it would be my little logo, all those things, and those appear on pretty much every page on my website. So what I would do is I would get that piece of code from Facebook. I would then paste that code into the header area of my website, which means the pixel or the Facebook code is now on every page of my website. And so when you have a pixel, and I'm going to pull that up on the screen here because I want to show you an idea of what that code looks like. Don't use mine, of course, when you've got that on the screen. Well, you can. You can spend money for me if you want. I wouldn't recommend you do that, but you could theoretically. So I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to show you what that code looks like and what to do with it. So if you're creating an audience at this point, you can create an audience, and I'll walk you through a little bit of the wizard like this, but I want to show you what the pixel looks like real quick. So let me grab a little pixel here. Let's see, because it's going to look like a piece of code that you're going to copy and paste. And let me grab that real quick here, since I've already got it created. So in this case, we'll grab the little pixel, and we'll paste it in the header area of our site, right where our navigation is. Here it is. So let's show it here. Pixel Manager. Sorry, I'm going around. I don't want you to get all that stuff from me. But when you're creating it, it'll have you go through. Here's our pixel code. So view pixel code. So what it gives you here, and you don't want to use mine, again, while I show this on the screen. So you'll see this add pixel code to your website. And for those of you who have teams or web designer teams, which I highly recommend, you want to hire someone to do this for you, you're going to send them this really technical looking code that starts here with script and blah, 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 blah. You're going to copy that, and then this is the code right there that goes in the header or footer area of your website. It's not important where it goes in the website, but at this point you want to make sure that that code is appearing on every single page of your website. So the header or the footer will get that accomplished. And of course, if this is losing you a little bit on the technical side, make sure that you ask questions via the Facebook group, or you ask questions going forward so that you understand exactly how that works. Or you have your web development team, you send them that code and you say, hey, put this on my website, please, at this point. So here's the thing that you want to be thinking about. What ends up happening is then you're going to create your custom audience to get that code. And I'm going to show exactly how that works here. So let me pull that up real quick, the exciting part when I'm broadcasting. So we'll create an audience here. So at the top here, on the top right, what you'll see is, and I'm going to zoom in real quick. So you're going to see this little button that says create audience, and you're going to create a custom audience. There you go. So of this, the type of custom audience that you want is where it says website traffic right there. So website traffic. So what you want to do is anybody that visits your website, or as you can see in the drop down, and I'll try to zoom in on this real quick, people who visit specific pages, people who visit specific pages but not others, and people who haven't visited in a certain amount of time. So any of those can be valuable for different types of campaigns that you have there. But anybody, so people who visit specific web pages or anyone who visits your website are great ways for you to run campaigns. The problem with anyone who visits your website, just so you know, is it's, again, a very wide canvas that you're throwing out there that's a little bit too wide. Now, in my case, I would be creating a custom campaign to really make sure that I'm doing it for people who visited specific web pages. And then what I would do is, remember over here, I had my little exploremomentum.com/tactics that was up on the screen right there. So I would grab that, and in my pages manager here, I would add my URL or the keywords to that URL. I could do either. The maximum days that you can put in here is what I would recommend. So I believe that's 120 days at this point. And then we would enter a name for this audience. So I would call it Remarketing Webinar Page Visit. Okay, so there we go. And I can also add a description at this point if I choose. So if I add that description at this point, then I have the ability to say whatever notes or whatever it is that I want to know about that audience. So are they location specific? Is there something else going on with them? Whichever you like, that's one way to do it. So I'm going to create that audience. And then thank you for creating a custom audience. Now, one thing I want to alert you about, when you first get that big nasty piece of code and you put it on your website in the header or the footer area, it's going to take roughly 48 to 96 hours for that code to apply. So for a while there, it'll be sitting with a little red dot that says not ready. That is normal. So you won't be able to do this. Like if you have an event tomorrow and you're trying to use remarketing strategy for it, chances are it's not your best bet. Now, over time, however, over the long body of campaign management, that's going to be something that you want to do for your long-term strategy, your remarketing strategy. So when you create your custom audience, and I'm going to go back to showing that here, which I'm zoomed way in here, it's going to show a variety of different audiences that I have here. And right here at the top is my custom audience for people that just visited that page on my website. And if I zoom out, which I'm going to do for a minute here, which might be a little harder to see, so sorry for that, it will show you the approximate size. So for this one, since it's new, it'll say audience too small. And again, I didn't take this campaign very wide. This was specific for people that had seen me, networked with me, so I didn't send this out to an audience of too much bigger than 100. The minimum audience size that you must have to make this work is 100 visitors. So you could drive that however you want to drive that to your website. It could be your email list. It could be offline marketing like postcards or flyers or door hangers. It could be online marketing. So for a lot of you who are looking at Facebook ads or Google ads or YouTube ads, for a lot of you that are doing that, this might be a way to drive to different pages on your website. It allows you to create advertisements that don't look like sales or don't look like promotions. And when they visit your content, you follow up with them based on whatever content they viewed. So when I showed that menu of people who visited specific pages but not other pages, that was what you were seeing at that point. So I could say if they visited my remarketing page but not my other marketing page, then I want a specific message to them. So I want to use some examples of how this would work because I saw some of the people that registered for the webinar out there. So I'm going to use a financial planner as an example because one of the people that I know registered at this point is a financial planner. So as a financial planner, what you would need to have on your website are different pages or different articles. It could be blog posts, could be pages, could be about us, could be whatever pages that you have that are allowing you to create some list segmentation or allowing you to create different audiences based on interest. In fact, in a meeting I was in today, I was meeting with a lawyer who specialized in things like car accidents or things like slip and fall. And those are very different audiences. So she might draw those audiences in and then have different messaging for the person that wants the car accident message versus the person that wants the slip and fall message. So that's what her audiences look like. For a financial planner, it might be different classes of investment. So you might have a page on your website for real estate, and then you might have a page on your website for stock market, and then you might have a page on your website for oil and gas. I'm just going to throw those examples out. Those three categories would now have different examples. And with the Facebook audiences that we just showed, I can run an ad specific to each of those individually. Or if people are going all over my site, I could run a different ad to someone who visited 2 of those pages or 3 of those pages. So you're starting to see, hopefully, as you're watching this, where the power of remarketing can come in. So what you have to have on your front site are articles or content or pages or blog posts, whichever you like, that start to create some segmentation in your audience. And you want to do that by topic, or you want to do that with specific copy. So like my financial planner example, my real estate example. I'll use a real estate example for those of you that are new to this model. So you might have residential real estate, and in residential you might have a fix and flip page, you might have a buy and hold page, and you might have a commercial real estate page. And think about those customers. If you were selling those customers and you were talking to them in person or on the phone, those would be very different messages that you're offering to those different customers. That's what remarketing and retargeting allows you to do. I can have specific conversations with my advertisements or with Facebook, Google, and YouTube that are very customized based on what they visited. So now I'm going to go back into my page here and show you what I could do with that audience. So I'll have a group, and this is too small, so I'm not going to be able to run an ad right now, but let's say I was. So in here, this would show me some insights, people who visited that URL specifically in the last few days, and it shows me a little bit about what I know about them. And then from there, I could create an advertisement. So up here at the top, I can create an advertisement. The other thing I can do is create a lookalike audience at this point. So that lookalike audience would allow me to create an audience that looks very similar in that regard. So I might create, somebody that's visited certain pages but not others. So if I create an ad specific to that audience or specific to groups of audiences, then I can go into the Facebook standard ad campaign or the different areas that I have here. So I might send people to my website. I might want to increase conversions, actually have people opt in. I might just want to boost my Facebook posts. So this takes you into the standard old Facebook ad campaign thing, and then it would allow me to create some ad copy here. So whatever it is that I want to do, we'll just say send people to my website, and then we'll talk about the URL to promote. So we'll send them back to that same URL, that tactics URL. It'll enter the details. And then I say who I want to send it to. So in this case, I would call the campaign demo. So I'm going to call it demo because that's what I'm doing. And then under here in my custom audiences that I've now created with my remarketing, I now can select that remarketing webinar page visit. I also have the ability to customize that based on a variety of audiences. So if I have multiple audiences, which is totally okay as well, I could send that to multiple audiences. However, you're starting to probably see, for those of you that have ever run a marketing campaign or an email list, some of you have done this with phone numbers. Some brilliant campaigns I've seen have done this with direct advertising. So if they send like a mailing campaign or something like that, they will actually have different names that indicate different campaigns. So they may or may not people that actually work for the company. So some examples I've seen there is like call Betty at a certain number, and if you ask for Betty, she can talk to you about oil and gas. Or if you call Robert, then he can talk to you about real estate. So what's interesting in that model is what they were doing is just using a code. They were doing the same type of thing. There wasn't necessarily a Betty or a Rob on the other end. There were people on the other end who knew that Betty meant you were talking about real estate and Rob meant that you were talking about oil and gas. So an interesting way to think about your audiences and think about the way that your audiences behave. So if I were selecting my remarketing webinar page visit, I would select that. And so I don't necessarily, I can segment even further if I want. So if I have a large custom audience and I only want to hit people in a certain age range, I could do that. I'm not going to do that in this case. And again, this custom audience is not a great example, but it's a small way of showing what we're trying to get across. So I can pare those interests down even more so. I can say how much do I want to spend. And the interesting thing about remarketing is, since you're not targeting a huge wide audience, the budgets on these campaigns can be quite a bit smaller. Now, when your custom audiences get large, of course, that's going to go up in scale. But instead of marketing to 60, 100, 200,000 people on a campaign, you're marketing to a few hundred or a few thousand that went to a specific page on your website or did a specific thing on your website. So in this case, I can create an ad, and so I'm just showing some examples here on the screen. I'm going to pull my face off there for a second so you see what I'm doing. I can select the images, so those of you who saw this on Facebook would have seen this cool little image, or I can add whatever. And now here's where it gets clever. So what texts do I want them to see? And this is where the ads can get really good. And you'll see over here on the right, so this is my little sponsored post that I'll be creating with my little recycling graphic. But I can say something really specific to people that visited the page. So like, hey, you didn't register yet. What's up? So I'm going to post that there. And then I could say, we noticed you're interested in remarketing, but also that you forgot to sign up. Get registered. And this is too much and then I've got -8, so I need to take out a word. I can say, just noticed you're interested in remarketing. And we can just say, and you forgot to sign up. Get registered. Or we can say, what's up? So look at how customized this ad looks here. And this is just an example. So this is what they would see on the screen. Hey, you didn't register yet. What's up? My little graphic. Notice you're interested in remarketing and you forgot to sign up. Get registered now. So look at how customized that ad copy is compared to a big, wide, hope you like my thing, sign up for my thing. This is how it works. It's a very targeted and customized way for us to start bearing down on who our audience is and the types of things that they want. So custom audiences, or remarketing in that model, is a really savvy way at this point for you to be able to target specific markets based on what they do, where they go, how they behave. So what you got to have is, first of all, you got to say, who's my market? Then you got to bring that market to your web page. So that might be your email list. It might be Facebook ads, ads of a different kind, whatever it is that drives them to your website and has them start looking at your website and doing different things on there. Then what you need to have is content or pages on your website that are very specific for segmenting your audience. So like I used that financial planner example or your legal example, your website has to be more than just, hey, this is what I do, and an about us. And the more customized you get and the more that you create content and you get those things on your website, the better off that you'll be. So then you can start to segment, target a little bit more specifically. And so what's right for your business is going to be, what are the specific people that you're looking for? So you want to say, who's my market, or who's my target market? You want to say, what content or what do I have on my website that allows me to start to figure out who they are and what they want? So you want to segment that content on your website that segments those people. Then you want to place ads, or you want to push people to that content so that you start to get the division. And then your remarketing ads can be very specific based off of the content that they viewed on the website. So as you noticed for tonight's webinar, that's why I did it as specifically as I did at this point, because that allows me to have specific conversations with specific groups of people. And so this fits into a strategy that's been coined by a lot of people in the marketing space as native advertising. So let's talk about the big picture for a second, because we got very nuts and bolts on retargeting right there. I showed you how to get your code. You can get a similar code through Google. I'm not going to show that on this, but it's a very similar process to what you saw right here. So here's what you should be thinking. When you're creating your big, large-scale marketing campaigns, and it doesn't matter if they're offline, online, through the chamber, through Facebook, through whatever, your job is to send people through to your website. Your website's job is then to have content that's very specific in a variety of specific areas. So all of your advertising on the front end of your website, all of that stuff does not have to look salesy. And when they land on a page, like that opt-in page, you don't even necessarily have to ask them to give you information. If you use this model correctly, in fact, you're probably not. So all of your advertising, all of a sudden, starts to look like free stuff, or starts to look like content, or starts to look like things that you're giving away. So when the customer lands on your website, their experience is really good, because all they're seeing is, hey, you're giving me all this free stuff, this valuable stuff. And then what they start to see is they go back to Facebook, or they go back to YouTube, or they go back to Google, is your smiling face or your smiling content or the imagery that they saw on that website following them around. And they'll say, wow, that Ken Course guy must be serious business, or whomever's out here watching. They must be serious. I'm seeing them on Facebook. I'm seeing them on YouTube. I'm seeing them wherever I go. And there are many other sites that do remarketing or retargeting. And now your goal from those second and third and fourth impressions is actually to get them to buy something. So the best types of campaigns at that point would then be positioning them for a small buy. And Ryan Dice refers to that. They coined the term tripwire. It might be your introductory offer. And that offer is going to tend to be in the 99-cent to maybe $10 range, really low-cost offer that you've got there. And that's how you're going to get their information. It takes you out of the marketing style where you're constantly constantly begging for information or begging them to opt into your site or begging them to give you what they want. And then what it's also allowing you to do is to essentially bring people in and make second and third impressions before they even opt in. So by the time they buy something for you, or they opt into your system, or they do what you ask them to do, you know a few things about them. They haven't even opted in yet, so you know what they're interested in, and you know what they're not interested in. All of your advertising and messaging can get very specific based on the types of messages or channels that you're trying to send them, whatever it is that you're trying to move them towards. And they're going to be a much more engaged audience, because even in the traditional model, when you would send them to that landing page and they would fill out their information and they would do that stuff, what would end up happening is you'd have big time attrition, because once they opted in, then you'd have to try to get them to stick around. So then you'd have to get them to pay attention to your newsletter. Then you'd have to get them to pay attention to your webinar or whatever it is that you were doing at that point. So this model allows you to get way more targeted, way more specific, and by the time that they're coming into your funnel, or by the time that they're going to buy your initial product, your initial service, your initial deal, you already know some things about them, and you can customize the marketing language and the sales language to get very specific around what the customer wants. So remarketing is an amazing tool, and the statistics are starting to show people that do this. In fact, the marketing statistic that's commonly thrown around is that you've got to have anywhere from 5 to 7 points of contact, whether it's email, advertisements, phone calls, in person, 5 to 7 minimum, and some stats show more points of contact before they'll ever buy anything from you or become your customer. So the follow-up is key, and remarketing is a way that allows you to do this on the front end with no commitment on their part, and again allows you to segment before they ever come into your system, so you can get wide audiences of people and bring them into specific pieces of your funnel. So just to recap, and I know I've recapped already, but I want to repeat because this is kind of a complicated strategy, and I want to make sure that it's really simple and really clear for those of you who are watching this. So the basics of remarketing are: you are creating content that allows you to segment your audience as they come into your system. So wide campaigns to start that look like free content or that look like giveaways that are allowing you to segment lists so that you can then follow them around the web on Facebook, Google, YouTube, other services that do this, specifically to make sure that you are having specific conversations based on what they liked or what they looked at versus what they didn't. To start remarketing, like I said, you got to have that content. So you got to understand, what are my different pain points that I'm reaching out to? So who are my headaches, and what types of headaches do they have out there? In my lawyer example, are they about to be in a car accident, or have they been in a car accident, or are they in a slip and fall case, or what type of case are they in? So you got to say, what do I have on my website right now that speaks to those specific audiences? Then you're going to do what you can offline and online to bring people to your website, the same things you're doing in your marketing already, and then maybe adding things on. And then from there, you're going to have specific retargeted conversations with those subcategories, with those audiences, so that you can get them into the specific low-cost offers or low-cost buys that you want to move them towards. And for those of you that don't have low-cost offers or low-cost buys, those are things that we talk about in our business strategy all the time out there. And so hope you guys enjoyed this webinar. I know it was a technical start, but I've been promising this one for a while. So remarketing strategy, it's something I implement. It's something all the major internet marketing people that I work with at this point are implementing. Huge people in the industry are doing this strategy, and it's a great one that allows you to not have to beg for contact info, gets you out of that arena, and allows you to move forward. And if you liked this, please let me know on the Facebook page. I had that up on the screen, facebook.com/Ken Course. Let me know. Facebook.com/Explore Momentum. For those of you who are out there, I should put that up there too, Explore Momentum. And we'll be doing these webinars consistently going forward about personal development, leadership, about marketing strategy, and about whatever you request. I love to speak, love to teach, and hope you enjoyed this session tonight. So we'll see you on future sessions here at Explore Momentum, and hope you have a great night going forward. So thanks for being here. Woo!